Now on to the moon. As I've mentioned, the sun is yourself coming here to live a certain way, to be a certain something, to have a certain purpose. And that in itself is not hard. The hard thing is that we show up here on planet Earth and it's such an unwelcoming place. And what I mean by that is there's nothing here that supports us purely as ourselves. As I mentioned in the last video, there's no food we can eat that eventually, if we only eat it, will kill us. There's no perfect environment. There's always something wrong here. Things never line up perfectly. Okay, so when we're born on Earth, the part of us that wants to, that's really us, that wants to shine as ourselves, shows up here in a world where nothing hardly says yes, 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 be that way. Yes, yes, this is going to work perfectly. Yes, 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 this is a seamless transition. Okay? Everything is saying, this kind of works, at best. And so what we have to do is, we literally have to adapt. Okay? And that's what the moon's job is. It's basically to allow us to adapt. So here we are, our sun, and the sun has a square body, which means it's this fixed thing. You're a fixed thing. And which means you have you're a certain way. And that way is not meant to change. There's a core to us, to each of us, that's not meant to change. Okay, that truthful core of yourself. And that's your own personal truth, your own personal right way of being. And then we're born in this world where nothing will welcome that fully. Okay? So what do we have to do? We have to adapt. We want to move forward. We want to move forward towards the greatest realization of ourselves that we can have. But we're born here, boom, nothing's conducive to that. And so we have the moon to help us adapt. And what is adaptation? It basically means it allows us to, it gives us the protection we need to move forward. Okay, and that's a funny word to use in the context of the moon. Protection, No one really thinks of the moon as a protective force. But it is. In fact, if the moon left, we would be annihilated by meteors in a short while. The moon is catching these meteors that might otherwise just do a lot of damage to Earth. So the moon does actually protect us. And how that works is it gives us the capacity for adaptation. What is adaptation? Well, it means to be able to eat a toxin that will kill us. But our body develops and adapts to be able to accept that toxin. Okay? So we can live healthily on it. So the whole idea of adaptation is really a protective measure that allows us to survive, allows us to live. Whereas if we couldn't adapt, we would be dead. And that would be the end of the story, end of the script. We can never live as our true selves. Okay? So this process of adaptation is really, really important. So if you have a healthy moon, a good habit moon, then your tendency, your habit will be to take the best option. Okay? And adapt to it. It means the ability to habitually adapt to the best possible option. To the best option in your space. Okay? Because in the end, that's all we can do. Imagine you're on an island. And you're used to, having, 5-star restaurant food every day. You're real spoiled, But all of a sudden you're stuck on an island. Well, now you're going to have to adapt and eat the best available food that there is. Can your system adapt to that? And when you get rescued from the island, are you going to be healthy? Or is your system going to be unable to adapt to that? And you're not really healthy. Or do you refuse to even try to adapt, not eat anything on the island, and starve to death? Those are there are three options. And it's like that with the moon. The best moon is the moon that can adapt to the best possible option. Is it a good option? No, there's no good options. Not on this planet. There's no good options. There's no perfectly healthy food. There's no perfect job that won't stress you out. There's no children that you're not going to want to yell and scream and throw out the window at least once in your life. And there's no perfect compatible person either. So you take the best option and you adapt. A good moon adapts healthy and adapts to the point where it feels really good with those things. It's a full adaptive process. Okay? A terrible moon won't even try to adapting. It goes, nope, I'm going to try eating that. I'm even going to try that person. I'm not going to give this thing a chance. And then it ends up nothing. I call those all or nothing peak moons. Okay? An all or nothing moon is where it simply refuses to adapt. It's in the habit of saying, if it's not perfect, if it's not just what I want, forget it. Okay? Well, you don't get anywhere with that attitude. We all know people like that. Not if you know, but we all know people like that. And you look at their lives and you see them get older, and as they get older, they have less and less and less. You know, they're 60, 70 years old, and they have no people in their life. They don't have meaningful work, and as a result, they're feeling a lot of fear and stress. They weren't able to adapt. Okay? And they didn't try to adapt. Then the average moon, the medium moon, let's say, the in-between moon, is someone who takes the best option but maybe struggles in adapting fully with it. They're not able to be fully happy with it. Okay? They can survive in it, but it doesn't feel right completely. You know, every time they eat that food, it's like, oh, I got a little bit of a bellyache, but I'm alive, you know. That's not ideal. Ideal is we're able to make a full adaptation and move forward with our life. Move forward towards the realization of the goal of the sun, which is going to be found at Jupiter, the personal fulfillment we get from living out our suns. So, a lot more on the moon. So the moon's deity has two deities. One is Varuna and the other one is Ambu. Ambu simply means water. It's a deity of water. And water, of course, is that yin element. It's adaptive, it's soft, it goes with the flow. That's the idea of the moon. Okay, can you go with the flow? Can you just go with the best thing and flow with it? Ride that wave or whatever the best thing is. Okay? Varuna is a very old deity. It's sort of been, diminished to like a water type deity, basically like Ambu is basically considered to be like the god of the oceans. But it's actually, Varuna means all enveloping sky. So it's really all the heavens. And Varuna is the deity that put the stars in the sky. And most likely put the planets in the sky too, because those are also considered stars in a way. But it's the one that populated the heavens with all the lights we see up there. And how we can say this is really the deity under which everything is happening. Everything is unfolding under Varuna. And in the Vedas, Varuna was one of the primary deities of greatest importance. Like I said, in the Puranic times of Hinduism, Varuna has become a less important deity. But in the Vedas, he was a big dog. Okay? He was one of the primary ones. So this concept that everything's happening under this vastness, this skyness, and everything's happening under something. And in our lives, everything is happening under our moons. Everything we're experiencing is happening under the envelope of our moons, literally. So, if our moons are in a good habit, we're in the habit of experiencing things truthfully, as they really are. If our moons are not doing good, we're actually not even experiencing life the way it really is. And what does that mean? That means we're in the habit of experiencing life in a very traumatized way. And so we can't recognize a friend or an enemy anymore. Okay, we can't live in the moment. All right? So how we're experiencing life is so dependent on our moons. It's the manas, which is the sense mind. So all of our senses, everything we take in, everything we perceive, comes in through the moon ultimately. Okay? And of course, if the moon's in a bad habit, what do we perceive that our senses take in? We have the bad habit of perceiving the negativity that our senses are showing us. That's always part of the picture. There's always something negative, right? But it's a bad habit to only see and perceive that negativity, right? It's a good habit to perceive all the negativity, all the positivity fully, and therefore be able to say, this is my best option. I'll take it, and I'll live with it, and I'll adapt to it. Okay? That's the idea of the moon. The moon is the queen. Okay, well that means she manages our inner life, our feminine side. She's the ruler of our female side, how we feel. And it really is that. A bad moon is in the habit of feeling bad. Okay, it's just that way. We get the habitual ways we feel. A good moon is in the habit of feeling good. When a moon's in the habit of feeling bad, then yes, all of its perceptions become negative. Everything has a negative connotation to it. You can find someone with a bad moon, do 101 nice things for them, and then they remind you of the one thing you did that was mean. Okay? So, not that you didn't do the good things right, and you did the worst thing 200 times worse. It's simply that because they're feeling bad, they notice bad. Okay? What we feel has so much to say for what we are noticing. Okay? The moon is the blood. And so, the blood, of course, is the ocean. The moon is a water deity, the ocean. Varuna is considered the god of the ocean as well. And the blood is here to replicate the ocean environment, which allows for life to happen, right? So, if we're not able to adapt, we're not able to get what we need. And as a result, the environment that we live in, which is our blood, the ocean environment we live in is our blood, becomes hostile to us, becomes malnourished to us. So, problems where there's weakness in the blood, any type of malnourishment, where the blood simply does not have the nutrition, the minerals, and anything else it needs in it to maintain the life of each and every one of your individual cells, are the types of things that happen when your moon is in disarray. Then also, your environment, your actual external environment, will also feel hostile and hurt you. Because if we can't adapt to the environment becomes harmful, right? So again, the most critical thing about the moon is, are you in the habit of adapting, or you are in the habit of not adapting? Okay? And it literally is a habitual response. And the good news is that the moon has no enemies. Okay, now a big part of the Lajitani Avastas is what happens when a planet's influenced by an enemy. That's the most common way in which a planet gets hurt and starts behaving in a bad habit way, meaning it stops listening to what you should do. That's right. The moon has no enemies, which means the moon is the least common planet to be a problem. But when it's a problem, it's going to be a huge problem. Because the basics of life on Earth is the need to adapt. Everything on Earth is about adapting. Okay? Every situation requires an adaptation. Everything. Okay? Going outside your house requires your body temperature to adapt. You can't do anything without the moon coming into play and saying it's time to adapt. If your moon can't adapt, imagine how much harder it is to do anything, right? Okay? People whose moons are unable to adapt really, really struggle. They struggle more than anyone else on Earth. Okay? The moon is a salty taste. And again, the salt symbolizes the ocean. It's like the taste of the ocean. And I think it's just a symbol of that fact that the salt in the ocean and the salt in our cells is what allows for, interchange in and out of your cells, right? Everything has to go in or out of a cell. In really primitive life, you've got single-celled organisms that started out living in salt water and having this relationship with the salt water that your cells have in relationship to your bloodstream. All right? If you're having any type of salt cravings, like you can't stand salt or you crave salt, then again, that shows that the in and out of your environment is somewhat lacking. You're looking for, salt is, the interesting thing about salt is it's actually stimulating. It actually puts the body into, let's do something action. It's a stimulant when we have salt. Okay? And it gives us the feeling that, okay, I can keep going. Any type of stimulant just helps us keep going a little bit. And when you see people with salt cravings, then go to their moon and say, okay, what's going on with their moon? All right? Now, it's really, really rare for a moon to be in really bad shape. But it's common for the moon to not be doing amazing. Okay? There's some special rules for judging a moon that really helps it be amazing, like have a good day a lot of the time. I don't know if I'll differentiate it that much in this course. We really just need to make sure it's not in bad shape. If it's not in bad shape, your moon will get you through easily. Okay? And like I said, most people have moons that are totally satisfactory. They're able to adapt. They're able to take the best option and work with it. Now, the beautiful thing about the moon is it's not a committed planet. The sun is a committed planet. When the sun says, yep, this is what's right for me to do, they're doing it. They're fixed in it. It's what they're going to do. When the moon says yes, it just says, in this moment of time, this is the best option that's going to be the most right for me. And as soon as another option comes up, they'll reconsider. That's how the moon's designed to be. It's meant to change directions. It's meant to always strive for the best possible environment, the best possible situation. So it's not a committed planet. So one of the things that helps us adapt is just realizing we're only adapting to the moment. We're not ever adapting to a permanent thing. We're never going to say, I'm only going to live where it's 20 below, or I'm only going to talk to this person, or I'm only going to have this job, or I'm only going to live in this neighborhood. No, it's never like that. It's, this is the best neighborhood now. This is the best person today. This is the best job today. There's always this thing. Now the sun commits to those same things too. It says, I'll commit to this job and I'll commit to this person. And when the sun commits, it's forever commitment, because the sun doesn't change. Okay? But if you make a commitment to a job, or you make a commitment to a person or a place to live, you're going to adapt that thing. You're going to adapt with that person. You'll go through times where you spend a lot of time with that person, and through times where you spend less time. There'll be times where you're working 60 hours a week, and times where you decide you need to take a break and go on vacation. So even when the sun makes it fixed, yes, this is a forever thing for me because it's right for me. It's truly right for me, so it's going to be a forever thing. Within that thing, we're constantly adapting because of the moon's need to have a different feeling, because there's a better way. And even on a little simple way, we do this in our house. We get a house. Whenever people buy houses, they get it and go, oh, it's going to be perfect. And they live in there, they're like, it's not perfect. Let's adapt it. And they add a room, they take a wall out, they add a window, whatever. They build a shed. They're constantly adapting the environment to be more suited to themselves. Okay? And so there's always an adaptive process going on. But anything we commit to with the sun, because the moon is not capable of making commitments. The moon is only capable of living in the moment and saying, this is the best thing in this moment, so this is what I'll choose, and I'll adapt to it so that I can get the most out of it, have the most advantage from it, get the most nourishment out of it, move forward as much as possible. Okay? And we have to do that with everything, because like I said, nothing in this planet fits perfectly. There's no perfect fit. There's only the ability to adapt to the best fit. And as soon as we do that, we move forward. If you can't adapt, there's no growth. The moon is also the planet of growth. Okay? So if we can't adapt, we can't grow. It's really that simple. Look at the most stuck people. They weren't able to adapt to something. Okay? Now, the age of the moon starts at birth. like I said, if the age of the sun started at birth, we'd be home free. But it doesn't. The age of the moon starts at birth. From 0 to 1 is the age of the moon. So we're born here with our suns. We're born to live a certain way, to be the person that we really are. And all of a sudden, nothing's working. We just have to adapt. We got to adapt to our parents. We got to adapt to our culture. We got to adapt to our environment. And right away, we're thrown into this adaptive place, okay, where we have no choice to be ourselves. We just are in a state of, okay, how do I make the best of this? How do I survive in this situation? What adjustments do I have to make? And so, in that first year of life, we become the best possible version of ourselves, considering we had to heavily adapt. We had to just get used to this environment and deal with it somehow, okay? It wasn't the perfect environment for anything, Earth. Your parents aren't the perfect parents for anything, parents, okay? So you adapt and you become the best possible version of yourself. And then you want to grow. You want to keep growing and keep growing until you get to a place where you can most easily be yourself. Okay? That's when the age of the sun happens. That's at 50. Why is that the most easy time to be yourself? Because if you've done a decent job with your life, when you hit that age, that's about the age where you have enough, control over your kingdom that you don't have to adapt as much. You should have your finances together. Your kids should be capable enough that you don't have to keep, sacrificing yourself for them. You should have a good enough understanding with your spouse that you're not codependent anymore. Basically, you should have your shit together by the time you're about 50 to where you can start saying, all right, I don't have to adapt as much as I used to. I can actually just start being myself without worrying about the whole world, my whole world falling down. I don't have to do that job anymore that I never was me because I have enough money, That's why at 50 about, you have that ability, okay, to be yourself more than any other time. But before that, there's just so much stuff that we're constantly adapting to. Like from the age of 32 to 50, you're in the age of Jupiter. Well, the age of Jupiter is, one thing, important part of that is raising your kids. That's a big period where people are invested in their kids. And that requires an extreme amount of adaptation. Parents do so many things that they don't want to do. And take so much time away from focusing on being themselves because they need their kids to stay alive, right? So, and then before that, from 12 to 32, you're in the age of Venus. So now you're adapting to sexual pressures, coming of age into puberty. You're adapting to relating to the opposite sex. You're adapting to trying to make things work with some incompatible member of society. And there's a huge adaptation process taking place. Okay? I would say the most adaptive planet after the moon is actually Venus. Okay, and we'll talk about that more later. But when you get to the sun, it's like the sun is not adapting at all. The sun is the most rigid, the most fixed, so this is what it is, this is what you're getting planet that there is. And so in the age of the sun, we have our lives are going to be more set up to allow for that. Now a lot of people get to the sun age, and their lives are not allowing for that. Why? Because of a lot of bad habits that kept them from getting to a place where even at 50, they're in a place where it's easy to do that. It's still going to be the best time for them to do that. But it's not going to always be as easy. So there's something to be said for taking care of things, so that as you get older, you're master of your universe enough, you're master of your kingdom enough, that you don't constantly have to adapt, okay? Otherwise, it's very hard to find yourself. It's hard to be yourself. But it all starts with that moon, your ability to adapt. If your ability to adapt is healthy, then you're going to find your life working out so much better that it's going to be easier to be yourself if you have a healthy ability to adapt. See, if you don't have a healthy ability to adapt, or you're in the habit of not adapting, you never get to grow into yourself. You know, Sun is Shiva. Things need to happen. There needs to be destruction and intense growth to become yourself. It's not something you just decide, I'm going to be one day, because we have to discover what it is even, okay? And how do we do that? By moving forward, not by standing still. And it's the moon that lets us move forward. It lets us make the changes we need. It lets us evolve. And it simply does that, so simple. You take the best option, you eat it, and you adapt to it. And then you take the next best option and the next best option. You focus on the best options. And a healthy moon naturally will say yes to the best option. Okay? It's really in the habit of just saying, yeah, this is the best option, I'll take it. An unhealthy moon doesn't do that. It just simply doesn't, depending on exactly the trauma on it. I call people with bad habit moons no monsters. Their first response to anything is to say no. Okay? No, 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 no. Which basically means cutting themselves off from their growth and from their life. Okay? Why do they say no? Because nothing's right for them. It's true. Nothing's right. They're not lying. Doesn't matter. We need to adapt and take what we can out of a situation, take the nourishment we can out of what we put in our mouths, etc. And then we move forward. Okay. The moon, when it comes to knowledge, it represents what's called Samkhya Yoga, which is really interesting. Samkhya Yoga is this idea of how creation manifests from the divine on down and how it manifests through the 5 elements. For a good grasp of that, I recommend you get the book The Holy Science by Sri Yukteswar, where he explains the Samkhya philosophy in the beginning. Okay? And he has some nice little drawings to help illustrate it. So there's this progression of how spirit descends into matter, how matter is created, how our consciousness experiences matter. All right? And the majority of this yoga, which means this philosophy, I guess, is based on the manas, which is the mind ruled by the moon. And there's basically 2 forces. There's the force of God descending into our bodies and through our senses. That's the force that comes from manas. So manas is your sense mind. It's where the energy comes in and starts pouring through your body. And then that energy touches things, sees things, feels things. It terminates in your senses. And therefore our senses are telling us this is hard, this is soft, this is red, and all the things it's telling us. Okay? None of those things are real, though. Our senses are just telling us that. They're telling us that this ocean of energy, this ocean of electrons and protons, etc., is black, white, red, hard, soft, whatever. Okay? But physics has told us that's all BS, right? And then there's the buddhi on the other end, which is the intelligence represented by the sun that's attracted towards God, attracted to knowing the truth of things. So there's 2 forces, the buddhi going towards God and the manas force descending into matter. That's the basic idea. And it's basically an illustration of how why we experience matter, how this world that is not real is experienced so real. It's done through the moon. Okay? So the wisdom of the moon is literally the understanding that we're living this real life that's not real. Just like the physicist said, that wall is not really hard. That knock you heard was not really the result of hitting a hard surface. Okay? It was just my experience, your experience of the electricities that make everything up ultimately. Okay? So, a healthy moon is able to adapt. It's able to say yes. It's able to go to the flow in this real world. Why? Because a part of them knows it's not that big of a deal. Which means the world is just a dream. Row, row, row your boat. merely down the stream, life is but a dream, right? That's the Samkhya Yoga moon. That's the philosophy of the moon. It's able to adapt. It's able to change. It's able to do all the healthy things it's able to do because it just doesn't take it all so seriously. It's not so real. It's relatively real, yes, but it's not ultimately real. It's that wisdom that comes from that. When you get a bad moon, why is a person unable to adapt? Why do they say no? Because everything feels so real. It feels so real that that's not good enough. How can I even have it? Well, because it's really not real. It's just an experience. It's just a sensual experience of how you're going to experience electricities that are all the same anyway. Big deal, right? So if you have a moon that's in a bad Lajitati Avashtas, you have to take things less heavy. You have to understand that it's not even real. You're taking all these things that are so heavy, that aren't even as so heavy, and they're not even real at the end of the day. Okay? And the healthy moon just doesn't go around talking about that, but their attitude is just like, yeah, I can do that. It's not such a big deal. It's not the defining thing in the entire world, right? All right. Okay, one thing I wanted to mention about the moon, and again, I'll talk a lot more about the subtleties of this, because there's a lot of critical subtleties to a moon when it's in difficult shape, okay? And that is, but I wanted you guys to think about this, because it's going to be a while before we actually get to the moon videos. And some of you have tough moons out there, and I wanted to add a little more. When the moon's in a difficult Lajitati Avashta, the reason a person can't adapt, okay, is not because they're just stubborn idiots like I might have made it sound. It's because their adaptive ability has been, they've been pushed, or excuse me, they've had adaptive stress that's greater than the adaptive stress we're meant to handle as humans. Okay? The example I like to use is of a penguin, all right? Penguins are in in the Antarctic. They're way down there on the ice. It's cold and they love it. If I take a penguin and I bring him up to, say, Canada, North Canada, it's quite different there. It's not his environment. He'll live. If I take a penguin to Alaska, he'll live, okay? If I take a penguin to Montana, he'll live. He can adapt to that temperature, that cold, that climate. Okay? But if I take a penguin and I drop that penguin, in Phoenix, Arizona, or, Palm Springs, California, or Death Valley, or the Sahara, that penguin is not going to make it. Okay? It is unable for that penguin to adapt. Since it's not going to be able to adapt, it's going to have a stress in it that was never resolved. See, adaptation is a stress. It's when we adapt to something, it means we've managed to overcome the stress. So say I go out there and I eat some berries in the woods, and they have a microtoxin in them. But if I just eat one, and then a month later I eat another one, my body has time to adapt to that stress, and eventually my body won't be susceptible to that poison, and I can eat as many of those berries as I want. Okay? It's like, and that's how people can build up immunity to poisons, like the guy did in The Princess Bride with the iocane powder, right? So, our body is designed to handle adaptive stress and the change and the response. So is our mind, so is our consciousness, so is our hearts, and so is our emotions. Okay? But if the stress is so great that we're not able to process it before another stress comes and another stress comes. So if I go out there and I've never had one of these berries and I decide to just start living on these berries, in a month I'm dead. Because my body never had the time to adapt. It can't adapt to that load. That penguin can never adapt to that adaptive stress. It'll break that penguin. Okay? If we can't adapt to a previous adaptive stress, we can't adapt to a present one because we're still literally playing catch up with the, we're still trying to adapt to something. So for instance, if I go out there and I start eating a bunch of berries that are toxic for me, and I eat them for 3 weeks, and I ate so many I couldn't adapt. So I have this high toxic load in my system. I have poisons in my system, and I'm not doing real good. And I say, okay, I'm not adapting to these berries, so I'm going to eat a different berry. And then I start eating a ton of a different berry that also has an adaptive stress toxin in it, and I just start trying to live on that. I'm also going to die in a week, meaning I'm going to die in a month total. I'm going to die quickly because I haven't processed the adaptive, I haven't processed the stress of the previous batch of poison berries. So now I eat another batch of poisonous berries. I'm just adding to my stress load. I'm never resolving a stress load. So people who've got bad Lajitadiya Avashta moons were required to adapt to a stress that humans are not designed to adapt to. Meaning it goes beyond our adaptive capacity. And so as a result, they're always trying to catch up. They're behind. They haven't adapted to the stress of their first year of life. And so anything that comes just feels overwhelming and feels stressful and feels like, no way can I even try that because it's not perfect. Because they're still stuck trying to adapt to their previous situations. So you'll see all kinds of things. Simple things that happen are, I'll tell you some of the things I've seen with difficult moons. I've seen kids born early. You'll see it very commonly in kids who are born a month early or something. Because we're not designed to show up a month early. Our bodies are not designed to be born prematurely. That's a huge stress that can take a long time to catch up on. Okay? A parent dying, the mother dying at childbirth. Okay? A child being abandoned by the parents. Those things create an adaptive stress that humans were never designed for. Okay? One person I know, at the age of I don't remember if it was a year and a half, who had a really difficult, bad Avashta moon, got kidnapped as an infant and sexually molested. We're not designed to adapt to these type of things any more than a penguin is designed to adapt to living in the desert. He can't do it. He's going to die. So, the most difficult cases to deal with, the most difficult thing to heal is a difficult moon like this, because the healing is not about what's happening in the present. It is so much about what happened from the very beginning. So the healing has to go all the way back to the minute they showed up on Earth. Okay, it can't just go back to, oh yeah, when that happened to you 3 years ago. No, the healing is all the way back to the beginning. Okay, so it's a serious thing, and a person who has a starred moon, because of needing to heal that original adaptive stress, has really the most work to do. Okay, if you see a difficult Lajitadiya Avashta moon, it's the planet to focus on. You need to work that planet out as the primary planet every time. Okay? But yes, it can be worked. At the end of the day, it's about habit. Okay? The difficulty with having a strained moon is that now the person is in the habit of not accepting stress. Okay, they're in the habit of not saying yes to the best option. They're in the habit of being cut off. Well, what happens then? They don't get anything coming into their lives that can help them heal, that can help them adapt. Because there actually are things out there that help you adapt, that comfort the adaptation, that soothe the way. Okay? So by changing their habits and deciding that they're going to take the best option and make the most of it, then they can start getting some things in their life that create nourishment. And if they can get in the habit of appreciating that nourishment, then they can start getting nourished and start getting healing experiences. But as long as they're stuck and they're in that original stress and therefore only, just not willing to look at new things, allow new things, then they can't heal. So they really just have to go back to what a good habit moon would do. And that is, take the best thing and use it to your advantage, to your growth, to your healing process. And like all good moons, nothing is permanent. It's only, this is right now in this moment. So it's very necessary to live in the moment, because with a strained moon, a person on a subconscious level is always living in the moment of the past. They're always living under that stress. They're in the habit of living in that stress. It's just a habit again. It's not like they can't say, okay, I understand I'm in the habit of living in the past stress. How about I learn to live in the present stress? So we can use our willpower, we can use our minds, or let me put it better. We can use our willpower to direct our minds. Okay? And through that, over time, that will go deeper into our system. It'll impact our subconsciousness, especially as we get experiences that support our well-being. Okay? So it's heavy. The moon can be really, really heavy. And as astrologers, we'll see more cases of difficult moons than there are people out there with difficult moons. It's the least common planet to have difficult. But it's really the result of the adaptive stress being so great, it was greater than a human was designed to handle. And they have to handle it anyway. These are the people that are doing the good old thing of bite off more than you can chew and then chew it. The last thing about the moon is its intelligence. And the moon's intelligence is music. I mentioned one of them. One was Samkhya. There's also a knowledge of music when it comes to the moon. A gift of music. And that's really the idea that just like music has its high notes and its low points, its high notes and its low notes. And that's why we listen to it. If it was just a constant note, we wouldn't want to listen to it. It's the variance of the notes, the ups and downs of the notes. And the wisdom of the moon is actually knowing that life is about ups and downs. It's about the variances. It's not about anything fixed or permanent. Okay? There's a rhythm to it, and there's repetition to it. But in the end, everything goes through its cycle. Everything, nothing's static, nothing's fixed. And there's a lightness to that idea. All right? And a good moon is a light person who has a lightness to their being, because they know that life goes this way and then life goes that way. And that's just part of this how it is. And not to be super excited at every up and super depressed at every down and feeling like any moment is the defining or critical moment of our life. It's just a cycle. If you have a moment in your life and you fail, that's okay. That rhythm is going to come through again. Just like on any song, the music always repeats itself over and over again, right? Same with our lives. We screw it up this time, that's all right. We got it a little bit. We grasped something, and next time we do a little better, the next time. So there's nothing permanent, there's nothing fixed, there's just a flow, there's an up and down rhythm to all of our lives. And just like a musician, every time he plays a song, every time he plays the same song, he plays it with a little more skill every time. That's all we're really expected to do in our life. Just play it with a little more skill every time. Same issues, a little more skill. Same song, played a bit better. And, people who have good moons, they grasp life that way. They can perceive and just see life that way, and then therefore have a better life's experience. When the moon's in the bad habit, then the note you're on is the note you're on, and it's everything, and there's nothing else. And in that moment, you want to kill yourself, or you want to scream to the world that you're the most happiest person on the earth. None of those are true. It's, forgetting the moment for the, taking the moment as everything. And we're supposed to live in the moment. But part of living in the moment is understanding that every moment's different. A healthy moon understands that. Every moment's different, just like music. A bad Lajitadya moon is in the habit of thinking the moment that's happening now is the only moment that will ever be. There's that feeling with it. And so you can imagine the strain that puts on a person. Okay? And it's not true. Every moment is different. You can, they'll do that sometimes. They'll make these movies, or these shows where they like to do the time loop one, where every morning they wake up on the same day and have to go through this day. Every day it's the same day, it's the same day, it's the same day. And a lot of things in our life are like that. We're going to have the same experience. We're going to have the same experience with the same person, the same job, or a different person in a different job. And we're just trying to improve upon it. A healthy moon knows that. Healthy moon goes, okay, I did a little better this time. I only lost $20 million. I lost $30 million last time. It has a lightness to its being that we want to adopt. So that's, I think, the idea of the moon giving music. It's just its nature to know that nothing exists in any one moment of the time as a separate moment. Every moment is what it is because of the moments before it and after it, just like music. Music has the nice sound it does, not because of one note, but because of the previous notes and the following notes. Same with our lives. This moment now has its importance and its meaning because of the moments in our past, and the moments in our future are going to be dependent on the moments now. There's a flow between these moments, and it's all these moments together that make for a beautiful music in our life, a beautiful story of your life, right? What a boring story it would be. Oh, I was born, I was perfect, I had perfect parents, I had perfect grades, I met the perfect girl, I got the perfect job, and I died in the perfect house. Okay, I'm already asleep, I didn't even get to the house part, right? No, that's not how life is. It's ups and downs. That's what makes it beautiful. And we need to learn to see life that way. Healthy moons do. Okay? All right, so I think that's it. And much more details when we actually get into the avashtas of the moon and what each one how it will impact you. Thank you.